Welcome to Stories from Prepress. As we dive into Canva, well, short dive into Canva at least, and discover what it's good for and maybe, well, what it's not. So anyway, Canva is actually a pretty useful tool. I will have to admit, as a designer, I have used it. People hate on it or love it. I don't think anyone is impartial or doesn't have an opinion when it comes to Canva or like any other software or tool online that helps you design. People have used it many times to claim that they are a designer. I beg to differ. But anyway, so my opinion is every tool has a purpose, and Canva has its purpose for sure. It definitely has been helpful in the past for me on some projects. But these projects have been digital in nature, and really, that's what I would encourage people to use it for digital purposes only. If you're doing just a little whipping up a little project here for, say, I don't know, my sister is a teacher and she uses Canva, so I'll use her as an example. So my sister uses it for like handouts for her classroom. Honestly, that's a pretty ideal usage for Canva. It's a very simple, quick. You whip something together so you can print it out real quick and then you hand it out. That's a good usage of Canva. Another usage would be, say you're sending out Christmas cards, as it's about Christmas time right now. So you're sending out like an email with your Christmas card, and you just want to slap something together. You want to write a little something, and then send it out to your friends and family. Perfect. Again, like that's a really good usage of Canva. It'll help you make some really quick designs and like slap something together. If you kind of get the gist, Canva is for quick designing. And sometimes it can be for a little bit more involved designing for the digital purposes only. It doesn't say that per se on their website. Disclosure, I haven't looked at their website very often or very recently, so I'm not very well versed and can't say for sure for anything for that matter regarding Canva. But in my usage in the past, that is what I've used it for, is quicker like email marketing, just little images for blog posts kind of thing. That's what I've used it for, and that's kind of where I learned a little bit more about its functions and its capabilities, and so that's my background a little bit. So going forward, knowing that about Canva, it's a pretty lightweight and easy to use tool, so that helps people who have less in-depth design knowledge of what they can do, and just putting something together and making it look nice. So it is for some people. If you just want something easy and if you don't want to get into the Adobe programs, perfect. Again, noted that mainly using it for digital purposes is probably the best bet and probably the best use for Canva as well. So why should it not be used for printing? Well, so many reasons, but one of the biggest is not being able to convert from RGB to CMYK. And maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you can do that in Canva now. It's been a little bit since I've used it, but more often than not, the people who are using Canva who send me files, they do not have their files set to CMYK, which for printing standards is the standard for having the color of your files set up as, because we only use cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, as the colors that are mixed to create all of the different colors in printing. And that's a industry standard. So that will be your best bet, is to make sure all of your files, when you're sending something to be printed, will be in CMYK. Now, if you're printing at home, that's a little bit of a different story, that you've got cartridges, or nowadays there's a lot more printers that have refillable inks. Again, those refillable ink printers might also have just the CMYK. So that's another thing to think of as well if you want your colors to come out as they look like on the screen. So the screen will be pretty accurate. You'll want to have your content in CMYK. But generally speaking, Canva, you are not able to convert the colors from RGB to CMYK, so that creates a problem when people think that it will look this one specific way, and then I go to convert it to CMYK, and they've sent me a PDF that they created in Canva, then it will not look the greatest. Not all the time will that happen, but typically speaking, there is likely to be some color shift when I'm converting RGB to CMYK when you send me a PDF from Canva. So, I mean, I don't hate Canva, but it doesn't have its place in the printing world right now. Partly because just the color conversion is so important. But also, too, another really important thing is having bleeds. I find that when I talk to people, regardless of who it is, whether or not they have design experience or not, they don't know what bleeds are. So a bleed is, this is where we would cut it off. And outside of that, so say there's this much outside of where this got cut off, that would be considered the bleed. So this part would be the bleed. So that wherever the paper is cut, it will have some wiggle room if the cutter is like stacking a lot of paper on ones, which they usually do a decent stack. So if the paper wiggles just like a hair, there won't be that white line that everyone can see on the piece of paper. So that's why we have bleeds. So it is very important, especially when you have documents and things that have pictures that go over the edge or go right up to the edge, and then we'll need to bleed that because it needs to go over the edge. The trim line is what we call it. So that you don't have that white line or the paper coming through the back. So yeah, it's really just to make it look good and have a very professionally finished piece. And yeah, so not many people know about that, unfortunately. So we in the pre-press and also the customer service people are usually educating people about that aspect of printing and design specifically. So yeah, so bleeds are not necessarily something that is very easy to do in Canva. It's possible, I'm sure, but it's not very common when someone sends us something that was made in Canva to have bleeds on it. And then too with bleeds, so how you tell where the trim line is and where the bleed begins is where we use as crop marks. So crop marks tell us where the trim line is, where the bleed begins, etc. So I, in my time of using Canva, have not seen an option while exporting to add crop marks. So that can be pretty challenging, and I'm sure pretty frustrating if you want something to be printed and have crop marks. I'm fairly certain, though not 100% because I haven't used Canva lately, that you are not able to add crop marks in a Canva export. So there's that also. But yeah, so really crop marks and bleeds and color conversion in Canva is not its strength. And that is really important to have when you are wanting to have a piece printed and send it to a printer. So those are just some of my thoughts about Canva. Do I have any experience with someone sending a not great file who created it in Canva? Well, yes. As you can imagine from my ramblings earlier, yes, I do. Um, there was a job that I was working on actually today, and man, it was rough. It was a coupon booklet that had 50 some pages in it. Not usually too bad. That's pretty standard, I feel like, for what we print. But oh boy, we get this job each year, and each year something's wrong with it. There's been pages that are the wrong size entirely. Not necessarily proportionately sized either, so we have to go in and add bleeds, add to the page. I mean, you name it, try to figure out how to make it work. And then there's the sides that have the categories that are like right up to the edge or on the edge or over the edge that's going to be trimmed. So I have to change all of them. All 50 some pages have that, and all of them need to be changed. And most of them are not in the exact same spot on that category in that set of pages. So that takes a while. But it's only clicking and it's only copying and pasting. Well, 50 some pages later, over so many times of doing that, yeah, the time really does add up. And my customer is like, well, how can I make this better? I'm like, well, here's how. Don't use Canva for this. Would not recommend. Partly because laying something out in Canva that has a similar structure throughout the booklet or whatever it might be, that's not, again, not a strong suit of Canva. So also another thing to consider. But yeah, oh man, I probably spent something like 3-4 hours just editing this one coupon book so that it could be printed. So I, well, still don't know if we'll be able to have the okay. Well, I don't have the okay to print it yet. So we'll see on Monday when I go in. But, oh man, that was a rough job, and it always is. My coworker was saying that it's something. I was saying that can of worms was a little deeper than I thought. And yeah, so it just kept on coming and kept on coming, and the problems kept on getting more and more. And I kept on realizing that, wow, yikes, this person doesn't really know what they're doing, and it shows in the details. And so we can tell if you know how to design or not for print. So you can't really hide. But anyway, so that's my little tale about Canva and Prepress pre-flighting. So have fun with that. I hope you guys do use Canva. If you do, great. But just know that it's not the tool to fix everything, as most tools aren't. They have a very specific reason and purpose for it. And Canva does have its perks for people who don't want to use such a heavyweight design program, or just whip something together for a class or a job, or I don't know, whatever it might be. So there's a purpose and reason for every tool, and Canva has its strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful time, and I hope you come back for more episodes of Prepress. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this story time with stories from Prepress. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day.